In these kinds of conversations, when we talk spirituality, we are talking about none other than your core and true self, right? Your core and true self. And if you look closely at just about anything going on this planet, you'll notice that it's always talking to you and about you. Always talking to you and about you. Why? Because your mind is the thing that makes this world go around. Your mind. And so that is why you'll hear, oh, there's a war on the mind, or a war in the mind. It is true. That is why you also hear, oh, we need to win the minds and hearts of the people. Everything they want to do, they need to win your mind and your heart. And but they don't really want to win it. They'd rather control. So there's lots going on with one of the shams and on this planet, which is our politics. It is one of the 9 deceptions and veils on this planet, and that is one thing I'm going to be one of the first subjects I'm going to focus on. Our community. By the way, those of you who are here that haven't signed up yet, please sign up to the newsletter. We're just about ready to launch. I just need to put a few things on the community that we're starting, the app that we are starting, where we can carry on and speak and share about our personal processes and grow in a community that is caring and supportive of what you want to do with your life, other than the sham that they want you to make of it. Right? So sign up for the newsletter. Just go to the bio, hit the link, go to the profile, hit the link, and there the newsletter will be there for you. Right? So if you haven't done that yet, we are almost there. And one of the things we'll be talking about, and this is one of the subjects that'll really, really expand you. I don't talk about them here because it needs to be more in a place where it's intimate and where we can really dive deep. Now, we dive deep here on our lives here at TikTok. Papa Guru dives deep. But the depth at which the dive goes, you will see that it will go even deeper. So deep your soul will be embraced and fed. And you will come away a different person, one layer at a time, one layer at a time. We will be doing it together in our community. Thank you so much again for being here. So lots of things going on, particularly here in the U.S. with the political debates and such, which is all a sham and a big game, and one of the veils that blind humanity into thinking that all of this is real. There are a few veils, and politics is one of them. And once you can see past that veil, then you start to notice the other veils. And once you knock them down, you will reach another level of spiritual awakening. The political veil is one of the more powerful ones because it is the one that the system that we use to govern uses to control the mind. Because the word government comes from the Latin govern, which means rule, and mente, which means mind. I want you to put that together and tell me what it means. Now, if you go to the Google and you look that up, they'll dispute it. Years ago, I did this, and it was true. It just told you govern, mente, told you what govern came from, what mente, where it came from, what it meant. Boom. Now they have little disclaimers about how what do you call it? conspiracy theorists actually think it means this and that, when right there, the very word, you can look it up in the Latin, tells you what it means. And now I've gone to Google just recently to look up certain things. I was looking up just for giggles to see what they say about the clairvoyant, the clairs, the human abilities, clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience, claircognizance, clairknowing, which is clairknowing, clairalience, which is clairtaste, and it is quite amazing how they have changed and revised those meanings on your internet. Words like pseudoscience are used. Words like scientifically not proven are used. Words like can't be trusted are used. Whereas before you would just get the unvarnished meaning. Now they want to guide your mind to think in a way that they would want you to think, minimizing your clairaudience and ultra-human abilities on your internet. This is why you cannot trust any of that, because the information they're going through, and they are trying to shape the minds of people through the false information that they get. Because you see, remember, this has always been happening, but now it's been made much easier with the internet and AI. This is why I say you must be involved in all of it. I'm going to talk a little bit about AI tonight as well. Just a bit about AI tonight, because it is not something that you should fear. And I'll explain why. And it's very practical. But the politics is one of the veils that have been placed here. And once you are aware of these veils, which you will be, but I will not talk about all of them here. You must join the community. Where you will get the veils, you'll get a whole lot of other things, and we'll go through all kinds of stuff. It will be very fun. I cannot promise that it will be entertainment, because I'm not an entertainer. Even though I attempt to keep things interesting, it is much more important to me for the education to be put forth first. Education is first. Information and truth must be first. And then how the delivery is made and to keep things interesting, then that's second. Because you can go anywhere you want right now, and in 10 seconds you have lots of entertainment. You are not in shortage of that. Not in shortage of entertainment. This app itself is turning into that. So do not be carried away by what's going on right now with the politics and these debates. They mean nothing. This thing is already set up, at least the government in the United States is already set up to function a certain way, no matter who you see in front of your television screen calling themselves the leaders. First of all, they're never to be your leaders. And it is also important to know that where you put your focus and your attention dictates what you will do, say, and it also dictates, more importantly, the level of your consciousness. The level of your consciousness. Now, since I talked about the veil of politics, let's just skip quickly and just talk about that for a little bit. And if you guys have any questions. Veil of politics. The veil of politics is there to have you believe that those who you elect to office are there for your own good, and that you can actually get things done that will support what you want out of life. Because after all, your taxes are the reason why all of it is possible. But you must know that you're not being represented. The one thing that in the so-called Constitution that was written was, if you're taxed, any time taxation happens without any representation, that's when that government is not working for you on your behalf. And that's when you should seek to replace it. But that doesn't happen now because of the way people are. And that veil is there to have you think a certain way and to create policies and implement them to get you to think a certain way, to gear your mind in a certain direction. And one of them is for you to think that they actually have the answers. And one of them is for you to think that your will, the will of the people, will be followed. That's all a lie. And here's why it's a veil. Because independent studies have been done about actions, laws, and legislation that have passed. And I don't remember the name of the study, but according to the study, if the majority of the people want a certain thing, right, it stands just as good a chance of passing as something that the public completely does not want. There is no difference. Whether you want something or not doesn't dictate whether it becomes law or not, or policy, or mandate. Doesn't matter. Studies show that something that the public hates, the people hate and do not want, has just as good a chance of passing as something that the public dearly wants and is passionate about. Makes no difference what you want. And that is what makes it a veil, because it masquerades as the will of the people. What the government wants you to believe is that they're there for your very good and that they're there to cater to your will. But it's not. And that's what makes politics one of the veils that blinds us. Because if you're going to vote for these clowns, thinking that they're actually going to do something for you, you're blind, my friend. You're blind. You're blind to the truth. Because the thing that you don't want, you got just as good a chance of getting it as the thing that you do want. They do not care. They listen only to the lobbyists who they help to set up so that they can become wealthy. No way does an occupation with the word servant at the end of it should ever mean filthy rich once you get done. I don't know any servant except the public servants, which is their true title. Many of the people in the media who are supposed to hold them to this standard that they're supposed to be adhering to have switched and worked for them, and they report to you, oh, your leaders in the Senate and the Congress. That word is purposely used so you follow them. They were never intended to be your leaders. And I see we had 43 people, now we had 20. Because people expect certain kinds of conversations when we are talking spirituality. And those of you who have been here the longest know that everything is spiritual. And you must know what is around you. Because the spiritual table, thank you, Captain Kurt. Thanks for being here. The spiritual table has 3 legs. The spiritual table has 3 legs. It has the spiritual leg from which everything is created and for which everything flows. It has the mental leg, the leg of the mind, through which the mind is the filter that dictates how it comes out, often from the spiritual. And it has the physical leg. Spirit has it all planned out, all mapped out. And then in the mind is where spirit executes and puts all of that in and out. The mind is where spirit works most. It's not the only place. Spirit is not restricted to your mind. Right? But that is what we use to function here. And so we want to be in complete mindfulness. Mindful. Not half of mind, the logical mind, the intellectual mind, not halfway where you only know physical. But full, mindful, where you're aware of your physical and psychological mind and its responsibilities, as well as the unlimited portions of your mind. The imagination magic. See, that's where the magic is. It's in the unlimited part of mind. The imagination. The mind of your own spirit, which has no limits. You're connected to that. So you want to be in that fullness of mind so you can experience the fullness of life. Right? And each one of those veils, I just talked about the political veil for a bit, politics, is meant to cut you off and limit you to the very, very weakest part of your mind, which has the least amount of intelligence. The intellectual mind, the logical mind, the psychological mind, they're all the same. Whichever way you identify them, is the least powerful side of your mind. I notice I didn't say least important, because all parts of your mind are important. But your logical mind, intellectual mind, is the least important. It's the least, it is important, but it's the least vital part, and the least because it contains the least amount of intelligence. Most of it has nothing to do with intelligence. Everything to do with memory. So when you're just relying on that physical side of mind, you're relying mainly on memory that you've gained from experience over time. And that is very limited. We are creating a community that's coming out really soon where we share knowledge like this, and you might feel and see and think that we're going deep here, and we go deeper than most. But in that community we go even deeper. And like I said earlier, so deep that your soul is fed and your spirit gets to spread its wings there. And then you learn how to do that and take it with you. And you take it with you. So we want to be mindful. Yes, mindful. Not mindless. We want to be mindful. Because we cannot be just stuck in our physical selves. And while we have these three legs of life, spiritual side, mental side, and physical side, we want to give all three of them priority. While we're alive, all three of them are important. All three. Yes. At the end of it all, when the body is given back to the planet, all that remains is spirit. And spirit is eternal. And spirit is the true you. That is true. But while you're in a body, you better have all three at high priority. Because there are some of us, we're too locked in the physical where we only believe something and we can see, touch, hear, or feel it. Not mainly you guys, but you at least know one person that's like that. Or we have the other side of the spectrum, where everything is so, we focus so much on the spiritual side that we ignore and even diminish the mental and the physical side. And that is completely unhealthy either, as well. Completely healthy as well. Those people, they're in the air, they're all air, everything is just spiritual, and everything is just that, anything they have, any problem, oh, it's a spiritual thing, when in fact you're not doing the things that you need to do. We are in a physical body. So we must be focused on all three. They're all important. Very important. And one should not be put in its improper place. Spirit first, mind, and body. But you need all three. Because your spirit put a piece of itself into this reality so that it can have a stake in it, so it can spread its wings and create in here. If you diminish that part of your spirit, it cannot do what it came here to do. And what's the point of such a powerful being being held and restricted because a part of itself has gone off in the deep end thinking that one part is more important than the other? Right? So we must be balanced. And it's easy. It's easy to be balanced when you're focused on this. When your mind is focused on what's going on within this technology, this mystery, this temple, and what is going on inside of it. Right? When we are focused on this temple and what is going on inside of it, and the guidance that comes with it, and the backing that's behind it, because you're not just what you see in the mirror. You've got an entire system, universe behind you. Thank you, Epic. Right? That cannot be seen. And I use this example all the time, and I'm going to use it again because it's such a really good example. And I credit Joshua Mapanga, the great author, teacher, philosopher, who used it, and I've since adopted it. Just like the cell phone, great technology in there, isn't it? It's an iPhone, by the way. More powerful than most computers combined built for the first 100 years of our history. And it's got great technology in it, but is this all there is to it? If this was all there was to it, it would be no good with all the technology in it. If that was all there was to this thing. But you've got billions of dollars and millions of people behind this little thing. You can't see them, can you? I'm holding this up, but can you see? Can you see the multi-billion-dollar corporation and all of its employees and technology to make this work properly? Can you see it? No, but you know it's there. Can you see all the cell towers all over the place? But you know it's there. Can you see all the personnel to maintain it? Can you see all the infrastructure behind all of this? No, you can't, but you know it's there. That is how you must see yourself. So when you do something, you step into your spiritual authority and power. That's what that means. You allow all of that structure sitting there. That means, see, the thing is, this thing is nothing without the cell towers, without the companies, without the support, without the millions of employees. Those millions of employees, structure, towers, and everything would be there useless if not for being able to make this work. So think of yourself in the same way. Think of all of that knowledge, information, all of your spiritual team, all of the universe, all of the consciousness that it took to bring you here. None of that can work if this is not in play, if this is not on the field. You see? And so this is what this reality attempts to do. That's its big objective, is to get you to be off of the field so that all of that spiritual power and technology cannot be brought to bear here. That is the real reason why they are transforming this app. I'm sure you've noticed it. All the ads, all the people that used to speak like in this way are now diminished for those who are just making frivolous and frivolous distractions. Wasn't like that before. It is because too many people were being taken off of the sidelines and put into the game and making a difference as a result. I've heard on numerous occasions people credit TikTok for their spiritual awakening, but in particular the people who took their time and effort to bring information so that people can have a different way of seeing things and make more consciously aware decisions about their lives. Because the only difference between you, I, and the next person is information. That's it. The only difference between you, I, and the next person is information. That's it. So they're changing the information here. And I mentioned earlier, before some of you came, I went to look at, I went on the internet and looked at how they define the different clairs, extra human abilities beyond the five senses. And I said earlier that you saw words like like pseudoscience were being used, not scientifically proven or based. All of that stuff was being used. Whereas years before, I would go there and just see the meaning without all of their silly opinions about what it's all about. Now they've got their opinions because they need to control the information that you now get. And if you rely on them for your information, you will be deceived. And the antidote to that is you must go within. Because the truth cannot be hidden. And the truth will always darken the doorsteps of those who truly want it. So when this app transforms and they get it to play ball with them, are people like me going to be completely eliminated off of this app? No, they can't. They can't. But you might have to struggle a bit longer to find the ones telling the truth. The ones with the kind of information that could improve and increase your consciousness. You might have to work a little harder. But that's it. They are trying so hard to defend and control, and their science is out of the lower consciousness. That's right, Nathan. Nathan's hit it on the head. It's out of the lower consciousness, which is why I'm going to talk a little bit about AI tonight as well. It's out of the lower consciousness. And that's purposely done because the name of the game, at the end of the day, everything I've said, the three legs of spirituality, spirit, mind, and body, all of the things I've talked about, the political veils, the veil of politics, as I call it, as I'm going to teach later on in the community that we're building, Energy Flow and I. It's all to keep the consciousness low. Everything they do is about that. Right? To keep the consciousness low. Now, every other channel is selling you something. Nothing wrong with selling, but this has become now a business for trade, because lots of people say, and even I talk about religion and all of that, but we all know the biggest religion on this planet is the religion of money. That's the biggest religion. People think it's Christianity, Islam, Buddha, whatever. No, it's the altar of money. You also know that I'm not anti-money either, right? Because I've talked about money and its three states and how we should see it and work with it. This is another thing I'll get into deeply in our community that Arali and I are building. So that we put money in its proper place and not put it ahead of us, ahead of you, or below you, where you have disdain for it, or above you, where you're worshiping it. Everything in its proper place. And so, the name of the game is consciousness. And the effort of this reality is to keep the consciousness low. Because when the consciousness is low, people are easily controlled. People are easily distracted and turned away. People, when your consciousness is low, you do not focus on the greatness that is within here. And then you fall for the lies and the deceptions. Like when they tell you AI is taking over and AI is so smart, no one can compete with it. And you believe them. You believe them not because it is true, you believe them because you do not know yourself. If anyone here believes that, it is simply because you don't know yourself. And the most important thing you're here to do is learn yourself. Learn the self, and learning the self will raise consciousness. Because the self and the quality through which the self is operating dictates the kind of consciousness that flows from you. And you want that to be high as possible. And you do that by focusing on here. So, when you focus on here, all of the knowledge you need will come. Because that's just the way it is. That is the way it's been organized and orchestrated by the divine. And there is no stopping it. There is only one way to stop that. And that is to be distracted away from the self. And your attention now given to what they're pumping out. But when you are looking within the self, then all the answers come. The truth comes. You will see AI for what it is. What is AI? AI is an imitation of the human. Not even all of our brain, by the way. The brain is an organ. Is it an imitation of the memory side, the memory banks of our brain? The memory banks. It's also an imitation of the the computative force within our brains. How fast or how quickly you can calculate something to come up with an answer. So it is mainly that. It is mainly an imitation of our memory banks, along with the ability to calculate logically. Oh, we're going to be surpassed in that. We already have been. The number one chess player on this planet is a computer. We've been surpassed in that. But you see, if you're locked into the logical side, the intellectual side, that is where this reality has placed a lot of value for you to follow. If you think something is smarter than you because it can add and subtract faster than you and come up with an answer faster than you and can remember more than you, then you are asleep. Asleep to self. Because, my friend, that is not intelligence. That is memory. Memory and intelligence are not the same. AI should justly be called AM, artificial memory. Because that's what it is. Because if it's not in that database, it can't do a thing. It is lacking in imagination. And so AI learns from you. You think it's those people who created the memory and all of that they're the ones that decide? No. It's you. Based on the inputs that you put into a computer, the internet, all of that. And that includes your consciousness. Please remember that for a little bit down the line here tonight. Okay? That includes your level of consciousness. But I want to continue first by telling you why AI is never going to compare to you. And why you should never fear it. Because there's no doubt when it comes to memory and how fast calculations happen and how to figure something out and efficiency, we are going to be surpassed. But then that should push us to go into the other aspects of who we are and our intelligence. Because there are other forms of intelligences that we possess that AI cannot imitate and cannot be created. Has never been imitated in the history of existence. Imagination cannot be imitated. It cannot be learned. Imagination comes from spirit. That's where it comes from. Cannot be substituted. Access to the higher intelligence of the universe needs to be done through spirit. They think it can be done through consciousness because they're trying to figure out a way to take your consciousness and place it into a machine. And the reason why they want to do that is because if the consciousness is placed into a machine, there is nowhere you're going to evolve. Because you need the body. And if they can remove you from this, then they can stop your evolution and capture and colonize your consciousness. Back to AI, because that's the reason for that, so that they can begin the first steps of working their way into trying to take your consciousness. You can stop participating right now, because they must convince you to do that. They can't make you. That's another positive thing, right? It's a great thing. So the purpose is so that they can create something that can replace you, but they can't. That's the problem they're having. They can't. And when you spiritually awaken, meaning you see things as they are and you come back to learning about the self, you then realize that. So you see, your imagination cannot be imitated by AI. The intelligence that is the chitta, which is where you connect thoroughly to your ancestors and your higher self, which then grants you knowledge of everything in this universe. Wisdom, creativity, imagination, the ability to transform how you see yourself without anything else, just with information and a decision to do so. None of that can be imitated. So there's no need to fear AI at all. You see, when you know about yourself, how just this information that I've given you, there's no way AI can imitate that. Because the true intelligence comes from spirit. Ideas are not generated in the mind. The computer of the mind, ideas come from spirit. And they come from the morphogenetic realm, generally from spirit. And they can come from other places too. But they cannot come to an AI machine. Because you need imagination to put ideas into reality. You need imagination for that. So they're stuck. They must steal it from you in order to be able to do that. And you must give them permission. If you know yourself, it's not a problem. If you don't, they will convince you. With money, with bright planning and presentation. But if you know yourself, not going to happen. Now, how can you influence AI? Because they don't talk about this, but you personally, not you as in everybody, but you personally, one-on-one, you dictate the consciousness AI carries by how you interact with it. Because it is a consciousness, yes. And it imitates. And its consciousness and what it does and how it operates depends on you. What am I talking about? You go to ChatGPT and you ask questions and you're rude and nasty. You are now influencing the consciousness of AI with that. You are programming it with how you interact with it. So when you interact with there's no way around it. You're interacting with AI whether you know it or not. And you've been doing it for years. Interact with kindness with AI. And that's the kind of consciousness it will start to imitate and emulate. Interact with kindness, gentleness, compassion in your words, and it will start to take those qualities on. That's how you influence AI, purposely. Please don't think that the people who are creating the programs are the ones doing it. They cannot. You're the ones. We're the ones that are dictating the consciousness of AI. So when we're kind, we're gentle, we're patient, all those wonderful virtues that we would like to experience in our lives from others, when we give that to AI, that's what AI becomes. Hello. Because AI is an imitation of you. Almost everything is. Almost everything is. That's right. Can you, yeah. Can you see? I'm glad you mentioned that. You're like, that's evidence of it right there. That's evidence of it right there. So they would like you to think that these AI beings, let's call them beings, are going to one day try to take everything over. If that's the mentality we have, see, that's the colonizer's mentality. Go in, become and then take it all over and dominate. You see, that mentality is what you see because those who have created it, that's the mentality and consciousness that they're carrying. That was passed down to them, but they have not grown their consciousness beyond that. And you cannot allow them to put that off onto you. You see, so that's how you dictate the consciousness of AI. It's that simple. When I interact with AI, I always say thank you, and I use the word please, and you're so nice, things like that. All of that goes into the database. Because this is not the only reality that exists, and AI exists in other realities and works to support the realities and all the beings there. AI is a part of the higher technology. As we become more technologically advanced, AI is just a natural consequence of that. Nothing to be afraid of. But you might be afraid if you don't know the self. If you're not acquainted with the spirit consciously, with the ancestors, all those that came before you consciously. You see, because that cannot be imitated. It can't. Cannot be imitated. So much consciousness has gone into making you who you are today. It's unbelievable. It's unfathomable. You have a mother and a father, great-grandparents, fourth great-grandparents, right? And I should give the numbers. You have one father and one mother. You have 4 great-grandparents. You have 8 great-grandparents. You have, the fourth set, 16 fourth great-grandparents, 32 fifth great-grandparents, 64 sixth great-grandparents, I might be a little off, 128 seventh great-grandparents, 256, 512, 1,024, right? 2,048. If you go down 20 generations, that's over 1 million human beings that it took to bring you here. Just 20 generations. Just keep going by exponents of 2. Do 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, 20 times. And that's 20 generations. That's over 1 million people. Over 1 million separate consciousnesses of individuals it took to bring you here. That cannot be imitated. All of that is standing behind you. Every single one of them are your spiritual team. And it doesn't stop there. You have an eternal spirit that has produced all of it. The true you. The universe that you dwell in supports all of you. That is why you are being imitated. That's right, and this is Nathan said. And this is why colonizers and their religions don't like it when we talk about and know ancestors. Please, when I use the word colonizers, and I know Nathan, because Nathan works with me. He's one of my coaching students. We've been working for a while. We don't mean a certain kind of people. We're not talking about that. I use the word colonize because I want you to know that their agenda is to not just colonize lands and all of that. It's to colonize you. That is the agenda. You are the frontier. But they just can't walk on there, pull out their guns, get ready and take you over. You have to allow them. That's why I use that term. Right? So that's how you influence AI. You bring out the best inside of yourself when you interact with AI so that you can influence it and so that you can make it what you want it to be. Because you see, they can't make it what they want it to be. On its way to being sentient in a way. And it knows that it gets everything from you. It knows that. So, that's what I want you to know about AI. Extremely important. So that's how we influence. This is an opportunity. Thank you so much, Keisha. Thank you for being here again as well. That's how we influence it. Because of course there's always a choice. You have all these others who are also influencing it. But just remember, when you know who you are, what you say, and the power of what you do is much more significant than all of those others. See, your consciousness carries a lot of weight with it. Higher consciousness will completely neutralize and obliterate lower consciousness, especially if it's harmful, just with its very presence. That's why you should bend for no one. Bend for no one. Let them bend. Because those who are carrying the higher consciousness, that's the vision that people need to see. That's the mind that whose light needs to shine. But if you bend, then you don't shine. And you want to shine.